Join me and learn how to make a traditional granny square. That's right, the ones your grannies used to love and the ones that we adore. Grab your crochet hook, let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make a classic granny square, just a traditional granny square without all the bells and whistles. Once you know how to do this one, you can do all kinds of things, but this is the classic that you see when somebody thinks of granny square. Now I'm going to show you how to make it in two colours rather than just one here, so that you know how to change colour and where to change colour. So I'm using Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran. Aran weight is a really nice weight for making blankets. The good thing about Cashmerino Aran, it's very soft, but it's very hard wearing. These yarns are great for something that is going to wear quite well and be washable and things like that. And when you make a blanket, you want to take those things into account. You know, can I wash it? And how often might I need to wash it and things like that. So there are quite a few yarns that we'll suggest in the comments for how to make a granny square, best yarns to use. I'm going to start with this beautiful lilac, and I've got a pale pink here just to show you the contrast between what we call rounds. So you start by making a slip knot, and I do that by taking the piece of yarn, wrapping it round my fingers, and then with the end here, and leave quite a long end, just bring the end up through the middle and pull. And then you have a slip knot here. You put your hook in, and then when you pull the working yarn, which is the one attached to the ball, it will close up. Let's just do that again. So put the yarn over your hand, wrap it around your two fingers, leaving a nice long tail, and then bring the tail up through the middle, grab it, and then just pull the working yarn, the long one. Then you put your hook in and then pull the long working yarn, and that will tighten it up. Now it's important not to be too tight in these scenarios, because if your stitches are tight, it'll be difficult to get your hook in. So we begin, and I might just say, if you haven't already looked at how to crochet single, double crochets, these kinds of things, double crochet, which is a UK treble, we've got videos on the channel to show you how to do the basic stitches, and that would be a good place to start. So the first thing we do is we make 3 chains. So bring the yarn around the hook and pull through. Yarn around, pull through. Yarn around and pull through. So we've got 3 chains. Then we're going to join these up to make a circle. So I'm going to put my hook into the first chain there. Can you see it's going to form a little circle? And then we're going to do a slip stitch, which means taking this working yarn back through these 2. So I'm just going to bring it round and pull it through. Now, can you see we now have, just make that a bit bigger, we now have a little circle of those stitches there. I just want to make sure you can see that little circle. And we're going to work into that circle. So I'm going to put my hook in and just pull it. And then we've got the little circle underneath, and your yarn is on your hook. So first thing we do is we do 3 chains, chain 3. So yarn around 1, 2, 3. Now, the reason that we do this is to take ourselves up to the height of a UK treble or a US double crochet. And in the beginning, there's going to be, and I'll show you on my existing granny square, 4 little clusters of UK trebles, US double crochet stitches, just there in the middle. And that's what we're going to make. And this is the first round. So we're going to work a US double crochet, a UK treble into the circle down here. So we bring the yarn around, and then I'm going to put the hook into the middle of the circle and pull up a loop. See that? And then we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And as I say, you can go and look at one of our other videos for how to work a US double crochet UK treble stitch before you start this, and that'll give you a head start. So we're going to put another one in now. Yarn over into the middle of the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, what we've created there is what we call a treble cluster. And this treble cluster, or double crochet cluster, US, is the foundation of granny squares, really a classic granny square. 3 together. That was what we call a cluster. Now I'm going to work 1 chain. And this is going to give us that little gap that we're going to work into later. So I yarn over and then go into the middle again, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's the next beginning of the second cluster. Yarn over into the circle and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Free that up a little bit. Yarn over into the middle of the circle and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you can see we have 2 clusters, 3 here, 3 here. And at the beginning here, the chain 3 acts as the first UK treble, US double crochet to make 3 stitches. And then in the second cluster, 1, 2, 3 US double crochet, UK treble. And then we put 1 chain space. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work 3 US double crochet, UK trebles into the center. So yarn around into the middle and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn around into the middle, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, this is our third cluster with a chain on the end. So you can see now we have 3, then a space, then 3, then a space, and 3. And then we're going to work our last cluster. Yarn over into the middle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and another 2 of those, and a chain. And that gives us our 4 clusters to make the square. And to join the square, you're going to do a slip stitch into this very first chain up here. So I'm going to put my hook into the first chain, pull the working yarn through there and through your loop. I'm just going to pull that up so you can see. This gives you the little square that is at the beginning of your granny square. And this is what we would call the first round. And if you look here, this is what that is. That very first 4 little clusters in the middle of the granny square. And so there we have 4 clusters. Now, I'm going to change colour here because I want to show you how to change colour, because one of the things that we love about granny squares is that they're all multicoloured. So I'm going to actually snip off quite a long end. Now, I'm going to pull that through. This is a moment of sort of contentiousness because a lot of people feel that you can work over your ends each round when you're creating different colour granny squares. And if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I'm of the school of thought that thinks every end needs to be sewn in securely, because I feel that if you have a blanket with ends poking out, it's not going to look very nice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work with our next colour in the next round. So join me for round 2. So for round 2, we've got 4 little holes here that we can join our new colour into. It doesn't matter which one you use. I would use something away from that particular join, so you've got other things to sew in. I'm just going to go around to the back here. Pull your new colour through into the granny square. And what I'm going to do is tie it in a knot. Again, there's lots and lots of ways to do this, but I'm a bit superstitious and I don't want anything coming apart, so I always tie my new colours in. So we're tied into one of the four corners there, one of those four spaces of this granny square. This is round one, we're now working round two. So I'm going to put my hook in and pull up a loop and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, because we're on a corner, we actually need to create a corner. And I'll show you here, when you work in a granny square, in the second round, it's 4 corners that we're making. And a corner looks like this. It's 3 US double crochets, a chain space, and 3 US double crochets. That's 3 trebles, a space, and 3 trebles for the UK crocheters. So I'm going to, after I chain 3, yarn over and work 3 UK trebles, US double crochets into this chain space. That's what we call those little ones at the top. So I've put 3 in there. Now I'm going to work just 1 chain, and then I'm going to put another 3 into the same chain space. So yarn over and work 3 double crochets, US double crochets, UK trebles, into the corner. And then as soon as I've done this, you'll see the corner. So you can see in that hole there, I've put in 2 clusters with a chain in the middle. 3, chain 3. The next thing we do is we go straight to the next corner, which is here. And yarn over, straight in, and work a double crochet. US, treble UK. So we work 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a chain, and then 3 more into the same chain space. 1, 2, 3. And now we have the top of the square. Can you see? So we've got a corner there, and the corner is constructed of 2 clusters, 3 and 3, with 1 chain space in the middle. There's no chain space here between the corners, but there is one at the corners. So now I'm going to work another corner into the next chain space. So yarn around into the chain space, and we're going to put in 3 US double crochets, UK trebles, and then chain 1, and again another 3, 1, 2, 3. And now you can see that is the third corner that we've just worked. 3 double crochets US, 1 chain space, and 3 double crochets. So that's 3 UK trebles, chain space, 3 UK trebles. And then we're coming round to do the last corner, which is here in this 4th chain space. And so we just go straight in, yarn around, straight into that 4th one, and work your 3 US double crochets or UK trebles, then 1 chain, and then the next 3. Now, When you have worked all 4 corners, all that we need to do is to slip stitch this into the top chain of the very first chain 3 that you did. And so I'm going to put my hook into that very first chain, pull through and pull through and pull up a loop. Now I'm just going to snip that and pull it through. Now, the granny square that we now have has 2 rounds. So this is known as round 1, this is known as round 2. And what happens as you go further out into the rounds is that you end up with not just corners, but also a side hole to put a cluster in. And this is how your granny squares get bigger. The more rounds you put on, the more side holes there become. And therefore your granny square gets bigger and bigger. So for the next colour, let's now work back into our lilac. Now, I personally find the easiest way to start a new round after you've gone past 1 and 2 is always at the side. I think it's neater to join at the side. I'm sure there'll be lots of crocheters holding their hands up in horror, but I prefer a join at the side. I think it's easier. So I'm going to go into the side of my granny square. So the anatomy of a granny square, there's your corner, and the corner is 3 UK trebles, 1 chain space, 3 UK trebles, or 3 US double crochets, a chain space and 3 double crochets. When you join into the side, the anatomy of a side of a granny square just has 1 treble cluster, which is 3 stitches into a side hole. So I'm going to pull up my new colour, going back to the lilac, and I'm going to tie a knot, and it just makes me feel a bit more secure there. Then pull up a loop, and we're going to work 1, 2, 3 chains, and then 2 double crochet US UK treble, yarn around into the side chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and another one. And this is your first side cluster. The next stitch we need to make is another corner that sits into the corner of your granny square here. And I'm going straight across there, no spaces, no nothing, just yarn over into the corner and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I'm going to work a corner in here. So that's 3 US double crochets or 3 UK triples, like that. Then chain 1, and the same again, 3 US double crochets, 3 UK triples. So now we have a side and a corner. Then as I work around the square, the next chain space is a side. And into the sides, just 3 double crochets, like 1 granny cluster. Yarn around into the side chain space and work your 3 stitches. So now we have the side, a corner and a side, and then we're working into the next chain space, which is a corner. Yarn around straight into the chain space, and we're going to work a corner, which is 2 clusters, which is, here we go, 3 UK trebles, 3 US double crochets, 1 chain space and 3 more. So now we have a side, a corner, a side and a corner. And we're coming around the corner now. The next one is a side. So yarn over, we're going to work 3 US double crochets or 3 UK trebles into that side. And as I say, I know I'm doing this quite fast, but if you go and have a look at the how to work a US double crochet or a UK treble, it'll speed you up no end. And then the next part is a corner. So yarn around, and we're going to work a corner, which remember is 3 UK trebles, US double crochets, a chain space, and then 3 more. Then it's very interesting actually when you get to keep looking at a granny square when it's half finished, or it does actually help you to see where you are and what you've got coming up. So the next bit is here, which is a side. So we're just going to do 3 UK trebles, US double crochet into the side. And then the last thing that we need to do is to put the corner into here. So, and actually let me just show you this. Whenever you're not sure where you are, or you need to have a little thinking time, pull your loop so that it's big like that. And that enables you to sort of do whatever you want to do. And when you're ready to start working again, put your hook in and then just pull the working yarn so it comes down again. And that's just buys you a bit of time without you losing that loop anywhere. So the next thing is a corner into this very last corner. 3 stitches, a chain space, and 3 stitches. All of this is done in US double crochet, which is a UK treble. So now have a look. We've gone all the way around, side, corner, side, corner, side, corner, side, corner. And now all we need to do is to join this stitch here to the top of our chain 3, which is at the beginning. This is a slip stitch. Just to give you a slowed down version, you put your hook into the stitch, into the stitch. So you've got those 2 loops on the hook. Hook around your yarn and just pull that yarn through these 2. And I'm just securing it with my fingers underneath. Bring it through like that. And that joins them up. So I'm making my loop a little bit bigger. Snip off and pull through. Now, let's have a little chat about sewing. So there's your finished granny square, and you can see what we've done here is the same as I've done on this one, which is just one colour. The first 4 in the middle, that's round 1. The next round, round 2, and then round 3 is the first time that it introduces the sides. And it's always easier to see when you have a different colour granny square. So you've got 4 in the middle, that's when you first started out, round 1. Round 2 is just the 4 corners. And then from round 3 onwards, this is where the squares start to have sides. And when if you were going to do a round 5, which is the next one, notice that now you've got 2 holes at the sides. So if you go round again, you'd be putting a side, a corner, a side, a corner. And so with each round, you grow 1 more side hole. And in the side holes, you're just going to work 1 granny cluster. So for round 5, I would personally start off at the side. So when you're working granny squares like this, and this is an ideal size, just with 3 rounds, and this is Aran weight yarn with a 5mm hook. So obviously if you work in a smaller yarn with a smaller hook, the squares are going to be smaller. I prefer to leave quite long tails on the back of my granny squares, and that's because I don't like ends poking out. So every time you finish a granny square, and this is a great habit to get into and one I can't claim that I actually do, but sew in your ends. And we do that by threading a tapestry needle, and then it's important to sew the end. I'm just going to wiggle it through a couple of different areas on the granny square, go one way and then change and go the other way. And this is so that the ends don't come undone. So often you see blankets that are absolutely beautiful with an end poking out. And even though it's an absolute pain in the arse to have, excuse my French, to have to go and sew all these ends in, it does mean that your finished granny square won't have any ends poking out, and so your finished blanket won't have any ends poking out either. So I'm just going to sew this through, and it is good to change direction and even weave in the yarn further up the granny square. Take your time and make sure that it's really nicely woven in so that it's not going to pop out. And this is also why it's good to start each round of a different colour granny square at different sides so that you've got room to sew the ends in. And all I'm doing is sewing, just weaving the end in and out of a cluster on the back, just making sure that it's really, really safely stowed. So you carry on sewing your ends in just like that until you end up with lots of granny squares that are all sewed in like this one, ready to join together. So now you've learned how to make a classic traditional granny square. Now it's time to use up all those bits and bobs you saved in your stash for a rainy day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for lots more tips, tricks and tutorials. And we have a video for how to join these granny squares together to make a beautiful blanket. Happy crochet!